Fox News recently stole one of my videos and aired a spliced together edited version of it in order to make fun of leftists on one of their television programs, and I want to talk about it. They aired the video that they stole 2 weeks ago this past Saturday, and now you might be wondering, Kendall, if they aired this 2 weeks ago this past Saturday, how are you just now finding out about it? Great question. Here's the answer. They never bothered to reach out and ask me if they could use the video, nor did they even bother to reach out after they had already stolen and aired the video to let me know, hey, we used your content. No, in fact, I would have never known that they had taken my content and used it if it weren't for the fact that my lovely aunt happened to be watching their program on the day in question, saw my face appear, and then mentioned it to me at Easter dinner at my grandma's house this past Sunday. And if you're familiar with my content, you're probably thinking to yourself that the video in question must have been one of my Signalgate videos, or maybe it was one of the videos where I'm directly addressing U.S. Senator Mark Wayne Mullen from my home state of Oklahoma. Unfortunately, you would be wrong on both accounts. No, in fact, the video that they stole and they used to mock leftists was my original Victory Garden video. And rather than attempt to describe to you the entire segment, I figured let's just watch part of it together. After all, Fox News could not possibly be upset at me for airing some of their content on my platform, given that they did in fact steal my content first and air it on their platform to millions of people in order to make fun of me, so they should have no problem with me just returning the favor.
Now there's this, some TikTokers are out there making wartime era victory gardens. An interesting throwback. The staple once was used to boost patriotism, now being, let's just say, reimagined for another purpose.
Yet another day of Donald Trump and Elon Musk, not so slowly, but surely crashing the U.S. economy, start a victory or food garden.
Oh, they're so angry, all they can do is garden. You do you. I would point out, inflation is cooling, egg prices are falling, and mortgage rates are down for a second straight week.
Mortgage rates falling by 0.07% has literally nothing to do with people's ability to put food on their tables. I know that you guys' entire job is to glaze the current administration, but genuinely, what does the mortgage rate have to do with people's ability to feed their children? The people that are gardening to grow food because they're worried about not being able to afford their groceries at the end of the day are not the same people in the market to buy a house right now. I don't know if you're aware of how life works for those of us who aren't millionaires like you and all of your Fox News co-hosts, but
I guess if you disagree or have a problem with it, you can show up in the streets for vague reasons or plant some flowers.
Or you could just go rage garden. It's like the first Thanksgiving. They're almost going to starve because they start their commune.
I create my Victory Garden videos so that I can make sure that people actually do successfully grow gardens. They're not going to starve. That's the whole point of a garden.
Yeah, there's a lot of left-wing activists who make a living based on this kind of protests. It's very organized. It's not always spontaneous.
I'm sorry, do you think that George Soros is paying me to make gardening videos? Because if so, my check has gotten lost in the mail. And if someone could let old George know that your girl is struggling financially, that would be great. Meanwhile, Katie does get paid to lie on national television. In fact, that's her entire job as a Fox News propagandist.
And when you have someone like Charlie Hart going out there and asking, what are you protesting? And they can't give you a single explanation about why they're there. It shows you they're just there for the sake of opposing the administration.
We're protesting the fact that our country has been taken over by oligarchs. We're protesting the fact that the wealth divide is growing and the richest Americans continue to get richer and richer while the poorest Americans struggle to even get by. We're protesting because Republicans have continuously done away with regulations that help keep the middle and lower classes safe, help make sure that our water is clean, that our air is clean, that our food is safe to put inside our mouths.
I mean, we can make fun of it a little bit and poke fun, but I strongly prefer rage gardening to rage firebombing.
Oh my God, shut up. Just shut up.
You know, this gardening had a big moment during COVID when people had the same sort of just feelings of uncertainty. So I feel like it's not necessarily a bad thing to get out there and garden. It's very practical. Start now because it actually takes a while for things to grow and to get a hang of it, and it can be expensive to start.
If you recognize that gardening can get very expensive if you aren't careful, you could have aired the part of my video where I share tips with people on how they could make gardening not super expensive to do. And I know that that's not really Fox News's thing, right? Like, you guys do not exist to inform and educate your viewers, but we could try something new for once. Like, if you guys want to talk about gardening, hit me up. I'll come on, I'll share tips with your viewers. They don't need to overspend for their gardens either. But why Why create a segment about gardening? Mention that it is very easy to accidentally overspend on gardening, and then not even show the part of my video where I educate people on how to not overspend on gardening.
We've seen this from the left ever since Donald Trump took office, as far as, remember the singing that we saw in front of federal buildings and the holding of hands? It's like we're back in the 60s again. And I'm sorry, this party just looks crazy right now. They look unhinged. And I want to know who's sending out the memo. Where did everybody get the Victory Garden memo from? Because how does everybody echo that over and over again?
This right here. This is why I chose to make this video in response. This whole idea that like, oh, there must have been a memo that went out from the big scary Democrat party and the blah, blah, blah. Do you think that Nancy Pelosi personally contacted me and asked me to start making gardening videos, you idiot? What? That is such an absurd conspiracy theory to even suggest. People started making Victory Garden videos more because I chose to make a Victory Garden video and it went mega viral. The only memo was my face, my astoundingly beautiful face. I was the memo. Sorry, Nancy can't take credit for this one.
It's almost as if like it's so scripted that it's not authentic and therefore it's not resonating because it feels so contrived.
Again, I live in rural America. I have spent most of my life, including my entire childhood, in rural America. I have far more in common with much of your audience than you ever have or ever will. This is my authentic self. I'm not cosplaying. You guys are the ones cosplaying. You guys are the ones pretending that you aren't coastal elites, that you aren't speaking to your audience of people who look like me, live where I live, eat what I eat, and then you come in and pretend that you aren't talking to them from multi-million-dollar TV studios. Friend, you wouldn't know authenticity if it bit you in the ass. I just want to point out that of the 4 hosts, 3 of them grew up in urban or suburban areas, including the one that opened the segment, Guy Benson, grew up minutes outside of Manhattan. So while they cosplay as if they have anything in common with their base, I, the crazy leftist, am actually the one that has more in common with their viewer base than they ever would, could, or would ever want to. Because one of the things that they very intentionally edited out by splicing together 2 parts of my video was the fact that I mentioned that the reason I was making that video is because I grew up in rural Oklahoma out in the country, spending time gardening with my mom, spending time on my uncle's farm, and that the reason that I wanted to share these tips with people is because my grandparents survived both the Dust Bowl and the Great Depression in rural Kansas. And given that we were headed into another recession, I thought that I should pass down some of the wisdom that I was lucky enough that they passed down to me. But of course, they edited that out entirely because they wanted to make sure that it came across as, oh, this is just a new thing that the crazy leftists are doing. They're just so crazy and just so, that they have now suddenly decided that they want to garden. Bitch, I've been gardening my entire life. I'm a rural American. I'm the exact type of American that you all desperately try to prevent your audiences from ever realizing exists, because you want them to feel aggrieved. You want them to feel victimized by the left, and it doesn't help your narrative if they realize that some of their own neighbors are on the left. And I know how absurd it is of me to be like, Fox News not showing integrity. What? I get it. That's to be expected. But this is absurd. This is absurd. You guys are the city folk. Guy Benson, I don't think those soft little delicate hands of yours have ever touched dirt in your life. Anyway, just throwing it out there that if any of the 4 of you find time in between lying to your audience and grossly misinforming them, and you want to see how someone lives who is more similar to your audience than you will ever be, stop by. I'd be happy to give you a tour of my garden. If you're nice, I might even make you my famous fried green tomatoes, because I highly doubt that city folk like yourself have ever had a good fried green tomato. So anyway, hit me up. You should know where to find me. You know where my account is because you stole from it. So.